Hello everyone, I'm here to teach you about the Gallican Rite of Catholicism. So in the Western Catholic Church, in the Latin family, we have the Roman Rite, which is the most common. That's where the Novus Ordo, the traditional Latin Masses, the Anglican use, and so on are located. Most people, whenever they think of Catholicism, they think of the Roman Rite, Roman Catholicism. But there's a whole nother branch that's in full communion with the Holy See, that's part of the Western Latin family, and that's the Gallican Rite. So they're much less common than the other rites, and there are only a handful of churches in certain dioceses that offer the different liturgical rites of the Gallican Rite. Okay, first let's talk about the Gallican Rite, and then we can talk about all the other Gallican liturgies that are part of the Gallican family. So the Gallican Rite is a historical form of Catholic Christian liturgy and other ritual practices in Western Christianity. It is not a single liturgical rite, but rather several Latin liturgical rites that developed within the Latin Church, which comprised the majority use of most of Western Christianity for the greater part of the first millennium AD. The rites first developed in the early centuries as the Syriac Greek rites of Jerusalem and Antioch, and were first translated into Latin in various parts of the Western Roman Empire Praetorian Prefecture of Gaul. By the 5th century, it was well established in the Catholic Diocese of Gaul, which had a few early centers of Christianity in the south. Ireland is also known to have had a form of the Gallican liturgy mixed with Celtic customs. So some of the biggest things that I think sets the Gallican Rite apart from the Roman Rite is, one, the Gallican rites typically have an additional prayer at the beginning of the Mass and an additional prayer at the end of the Mass. The second big difference is the extension of hands that a lot of the priests do during these rites. They'll extend their hands to represent Jesus on Calvary. Even though I couldn't find any examples of this in the Bragan Rite, I believe the Mozarabic Rite does this, just not all the way out like the Ambrosian Rite does and the Lyonese Rite does. So let's get into those liturgies that are part of the Gallican Rite. So number one is the Ambrosian Rite. So the Ambrosian Rite is a Latin liturgical rite of the Catholic Church. The rite is named after St. Ambrose, a bishop of Milan in the 4th century. Around 5 million Catholics use it in the greater part of the Archdiocese of Milan. The Ambrosian Rite has risked suppression at various points in its history. It was reformed after Vatican II, Pope Paul VI, belonging to the Ambrosian Rite, having previously been the Archbishop of Milan. In the 20th century, it also gained prominence and prestige from the attentions of two other scholarly bishops of Milan, Cardinal Achille Ratti, who later became Pope Pius XI, and Blessed Ildefonso Schuster, both of whom were involved in studies and publications on the rite. Okay, so next we'll talk about the Mozarabic Rite. So the Mozarabic Rite is a distinct liturgical tradition in the Latin Church that originated during the Visigothic period in the Iberian Peninsula, particularly in areas under Muslim rule. While the rite declined during the Reconquista due to the dominance of the Roman Rite, it experienced a revival in the 16th century, especially in Toledo, Spain. The Mozarabic Rite evolved from early Christian traditions and later saw several reforms and preservation efforts, particularly under figures like Cardinal Cisneros. The rite, though largely replaced by the Roman Rite in most of Spain by the 11th century, continues to be celebrated in limited context, primarily in Toledo. Despite its decline, the Mozarabic Rite retains a unique place within the Catholic Church, with periodic efforts to preserve and revive it, including liturgical reforms in the 20th century. Okay, next let's talk about the Lyonese Rite, also known as the Rite of Lyon. The Lyonese Rite is a liturgical rite used in the Archdiocese of Lyon, now only celebrated in a few churches. It is one of the oldest forms of the Latin family. The Lyonese Rite maintained many of its distinct practices until the 18th century. During the French Revolution, it was suppressed, and though it was partially restored in the 19th century, it was mostly phased out after Vatican II. The Mass is similar to the Tridentine Mass, with differences such as the high altar's position, the use of gray during Lent, a larger corporal for the chalice, and frequent inclusion of sequences in the liturgy. In the office, the Roman breviary is used with some regional additions, such as the Virgo Parens Christi antiphon for Advent. The calendar follows the Roman liturgical calendar, including specific feasts for local saints, like Saint Pothinus and Saint Irenaeus. Today, the rite is celebrated only in a few locations, including the priestly fraternity of St. Peter's Apostolate in Lyon, which God bless the priestly fraternity of St. Peter for keeping this beautiful rite alive. Okay, so last but certainly not least, we have the Bragan Rite, also known as the Rite of Braga. So the Rite of Braga is a Catholic liturgical rite associated with the Archdiocese of Braga in Portugal. It developed between the 11th and 13th centuries, influenced by the Roman and Gallican traditions, with the oldest known source being the Missal of Matthias in the 12th century. Although exempted from Pope Pius V's mandate to adopt the Roman Rite in the 16th century, the Rite of Braga gradually declined as the Roman Rite became more prevalent. Efforts to restore and standardize the rite were made in the 20th century, including a revised missal in 1924 under Archbishop Manuel Vieira de Matos, approved by Pope Pius XI. Despite this, the Rite of Braga has seen limited use since the Second Vatican Council. In 2018, it was classified by the Pontifical Commission Ecclesiae as a local use of the Roman Rite rather than an independent rite. The Rite of Braga includes unique features such as reciting the Ave Maria at the start of Mass and Subtuum Praesidium at the end. Cardinal Ratzinger, who later became Pope Benedict XVI, highlighted its example of how liturgical diversity supports unity within the Latin Church. So, those are all the Gallican rites. There are several rites that are no longer in use, sadly, such as the Celtic Rite, and probably dozens more that I couldn't find. I know this was just a surface level explanation of what each rite is, but I will probably go into an even deeper dive into these rites once I find enough information about them. Okay guys, I hope you liked the video. I hope you like learning about the Gallican rites. I hope this video inspires you to teach other people about the Gallican rites. I know these are very uncommon rites, but I think that a lot of people should learn more about them. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching.